Not sure if many of you know, but we do have a virtual tier within the Design Coven, virtual pro member tier, which includes 3 virtual meetings a month where we set intentions. We do group coaching. So bring all your questions. We answer those questions and you get to learn from other people going through the same struggles as you. We also do a business practice meeting. So we'll have somebody on to share a business practice that we can all benefit from. And then we also do a product training. So getting a sustainable, eco-friendly line to come on, share who they are so that we can be supported with other like-minded businesses. And if you're not quite ready for pro, you can always join our free community where you will connect with other like-minded holistic interior designers. You don't have to be an interior designer if you are kind of just dabbling or you're aspiring or you're looking into this field. We invite everybody from all journeys, and you don't, again, have to be a designer. You don't have to have a degree. We're just a beautiful community of like-minded people looking to create healing spaces, not just for ourselves, but for our clients and future clients. Come join us at designcoven.com/join. We made it to episode 54 as part of our mini-series for San Diego Design Week, and we are exploring the theme of inspiration through the senses. And this is episode 3 of those blasts. So we've got 6 episodes total, and we are discovering sound with Kenseth Thibideau, who is our music composer here at Bewitching the Home. I'm so excited to dive into the world of sound with Kenseth. In the past dozen years, Kenseth Thibideau has become a staple of the Southern California independent music scene. He co-founded a pair of highly acclaimed experimental rock groups while in San Francisco, then returned to San Diego to find himself suddenly collaborating with many of the city's most respected and acclaimed musicians. He soon became a touring member of Pinback and 3 Mile Pilot, and formed Sleeping People, the frenetic instrumental group that was also featured in a pre-Dirty Projectors Amber Coffmann, all while continuing his semi-solo Howard Hello project with Marty Anderson. No longer masked in monikers, Thibideau is making what may be the most subtly rewarding music of his career, displaying the countless strengths of one of the West Coast's most genuinely talented musicians. And this was just a fun conversation that I got to have with Kenseth about the realm of sound and music, which I feel is so important and sort of intangible. But yeah, so this is just a really fascinating conversation. I hope you all enjoy. You're listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. This is a podcast that guides you as a new or inspiring independent interior designer navigating your entrepreneurial path. Here, with my over 20 years experience, I will share my holistic approach to design with intention and ancient practices, including feng shui, all incorporating mind, body, and spirit into my design projects. You will also learn from seasoned interior designers as they give strategies and insight of how they built their businesses and continue to work in the field. Together, we will discover supportive trade partners, new ideas, creatives, and inspiring artists from around the world. I am your host, Rachel Lorraine Crawford. Hello, Kenseth.
Hello.
I'm so excited to have you on the show. Kenseth has been helping me with music and came highly recommended from a friend. So I'm excited to get into his origin story. And, we're doing this podcast episode for San Diego Design Week for 2022 with the theme of inspiration. And I really wanted to dive into inspiration through the senses. So Kenseth is going to be diving in with me with the sense of sound. So super stoked on that. All right, so before we start, let me go ahead and just set our space. I like to ring a bell just to kind of get us into the present moment. It's kind of connecting into our bodies and our breath. And then, of course, going to light a candle. I love the element of fire. So connecting with creativity. And just setting intention for, connection and, of course, inspiration, since that's what San Diego Design Week is all about. I always get inspired by different creatives. So I'm excited to kind of dive in to this world, and I'm going to pull us a card. So I'm pulling a card from the Radiant Crystal deck, just a beautiful deck of different crystals. So just kind of getting us into the energy of one of these crystals for today. I'm just curious what we'll pull. Charoite. It's a purple crystal. I think I only have like one piece of this. It's not a very common crystal at all. And this is spirituality, insight, and connection. This is connected to Scorpio and Sagittarius. Which is also a stone of guidance, bringing us to the here and now, and connecting the spiritual and physical and the emotional realm. So kind of getting all of those things in one.
It's interesting that it's that color, because the studio that I'm in, if you notice this foam in the background,
yeah,
and all the foam around here, you can't see, it's all that same color.
Really?
Yeah, and that's kind of the theme of this office and company that I'm working at, is that color purple. And
oh my God,
there's gems and things like that I'm working on a game right now, and it's actually funny that popped up.
That's so rad. I love it. So are you working on a video game?
Yeah, it's a video game for a company here called As for Games, and so that's why I'm in Sacramento. I'm from San Diego, since 2001. I've lived in San Diego. And my wife and I are from there. She's from there, and we've had a house there for, years. But I got this job recently in May, and it required me to move up here. So we thought it was a time. I've been there for over 20 years, and she grew up there. So we wanted to go on a new adventure together. And so we uprooted, and we're in Sacramento.
Oh my God. So this is home right at the moment, is Sacramento.
Yep.
Very cool. Yeah. I know when I connected with you, it was just before you were moving up north. And I was like, I don't care if you're moving. We're still going to do like a San Diego Design Week situation. Especially since
that's
your
great.
Roots are here. Yeah.
And I mean, we might not be here permanently. I think that the game, after a year, and we have a lease for a year, so after that we can kind of see where everything is. Mm-hmm. And we're still keeping our place in San Diego. We're still keeping our roots there. Her family's there, and We're going to be going back down a lot too.
Oh, very cool. So can you kind of give me, so just to give everyone kind of a little bit of a background, I was referred to Kenseth when I was first starting the podcast, because I really wanted to include music into the experience. And I reached out to a friend, and because she's in the music realm, and I'm not like, that's not my area at all. And she's like, thank you so much, but I'm not the right person. You need to talk to Kenseth. And I was like, okay, like I will go with whoever you recommend. So we got connected in that way. And then when I decided I wanted to incorporate sound as inspiration for the podcast with Design Week, I was like, okay, I'm totally going to reach out. Because all we've had in communication was like text, voice message, and that's about it. We never really got to like see each other or meet in person. So this is kind of like our first real, semi-real
interaction
connection. Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit about the origin story of how you got into this world of sound, and what inspired you to go down this path?
Well, I think it started with playing music. And, ever since I was a kid, I could just pick up instruments and start playing it. And my mom got a piano for her. And then I saw her messing with it and learning stuff on it. And then I ended up taking it over, and she stopped playing. And then oh my gosh, I took it over, and I never really took lessons. I always was self-taught, and I learned things by ear. So I did go to school for music, and I did study a little bit, and theory and things like that, but I've never been a good reader. Never been the part of my brain that is the reading, the mathematical part of it was never connected to music. And so but the listening part was always connected, so I could always understand things when I heard them, and I could always communicate back what I heard. So anyway, I think that goes a long way into the sound aspect of it, because so I think that from music, well, I won't go too forward right now. I'll say after I moved to San Diego in 2001 to play in bands. And so I was in multiple bands at San Diego, and then did a lot of touring. And then I also started working for a company in San Diego called Singing Serpent, and they do music for TV and film and stuff like that. And so I started working in the studio there, and that's when I got into recording, and that's when I got into really like diving into sound and how things sound, and doing a lot of mixing, a lot of mastering. And I think that led me on the path to doing sound design, as well as doing ambient stuff and sound design and ambience for videos, for, you know. And now I do video games, so I create all the sounds for video games, not necessarily music, just doing like, you know, where's the character, what's in the environment, how does the character or the player interact with the environment. So it's really fun for me to create with this company from scratch the whole environment, you know.
Wow. So do you have just like, how do you create that? Like, I'm so lost. I don't even know like where you would start, or do you have like a library of certain sounds, or are you creating them?
Well, I have a microphone. So the microphone that I'm talking in is where I create a lot of the sounds.
Okay.
And then, yes, there are pre-recorded libraries too. And then there's synthesizers and computer programs where you can kind of synthesize sounds.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nice to be able to record a sound from scratch. And I also have in here is a field recorder. So it has a really nice microphone, and it goes into a sound card, and then you can take it back to your computer. And so it's nice to walk around with the field recorder and capture environments and capture sounds.
Got it.
But yeah, it's a lot of experimenting, you know. There's a lot of correlation with music and sound design as far as mixing and experimenting with EQs and effects and all kinds of stuff. But you'd be surprised how much of it is made with just your voice. Wow. You can do a lot. You can do a lot into a microphone and then tweak it and kind of make, you know, whatever sound you're looking for.
Amazing. Yeah, I think, you know, even when I'm doing design, a lot of times people don't even think about, you know, incorporating sound into their rooms or their spaces, but it has a huge effect on like our mood and what's happening and the feeling that you want to invoke in a space.
For sure. I love that sound really influences your mood. And well, love and hate that, because there can be sounds that really are distracting, and it's hard for you. I know if you're trying to meditate, or you're trying to just relax and breathe, you know, if there's some buzz from like a fluorescent light or like a hammering from something, you know, it's hard, it's distracting. And so then what you can do is you can kind of focus on it, and you can kind of meditate with it.
Okay.
And so I've been, you know, into that concept of just like taking sounds and kind of as a mantra, just kind of like going with it, you know. It's interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that doing the ambient music and sound design for your videos, it's just, I'm trying to get in there and get in that space based on what references you're giving me, or if you're where you are. You know, you sent me those videos where you were kind of like in a space, and then you were lighting the candle, and then you had incense, the things that you had with you, you know, like the chimes that you had, or things that you were creating sound with. And then I was trying to kind of work with those and echo those things, you know.
I mean, it's a skill that I don't have. So I'm just like so in awe, and then you just hitting it and getting it so right. And people talk about it all the time when they comment on the podcast about the subtle music in the back and setting that space, and they notice it. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's cool where there's something there that's helping with the ambience of the whole experience, and it's not distracting and not taking away from it. If there's something that can kind of add to it, and you know, sometimes it's nice when you don't notice something, and then after a while, like, this whole time this thing was going on. It felt, you know what I mean? Like it felt really good, and I didn't know why, you know.
Yeah.
But
awesome. So as you were like playing in bands and creating ambient music, are people just like connecting with you, or how are you finding, or how are you just navigating your way through this world that I feel like is not, not known to myself or maybe to other people, but it's a whole other aspect of design. And like, I just don't know how you would navigate through that. Or is it by connecting with other people? And
Well, the law of attraction. So you just open the doors, you focus on what your interests are and you just do it every day.
mm,
And then you keep your doors open to the people and the networking where this feels right, and then you go towards it. So that said, it started with bands, and I just made myself available to play in bands. I wasn't really specific with what type of music it was going to be or what instrument it was. And I just kind of went in different directions until I realized what I like to do most. And then you kind of pivot, and then you move towards the next thing. And then that's what happened with the sound is I realized in 2018 that I needed to do something else with the music and the sound and everything that I've worked with, my abilities to like mix and master and record and edit. And so I had this realization with the video game thing, because I myself played video games since I was a kid.
Yeah.
And then I knew some people that were in the business, and so I asked them what I would need to do to get into that, and should I get into that.
Great.
And they kind of pointed me in the direction of learning these programs that are used in audio. And so I took some classes online kind of during the pandemic, and then just put a reel together. I worked for a company in San Diego remotely, freelance. So once I did sounds for their game, I used it as a reel. And so basically just like moving from one thing to the next thing, move towards, keep your doors open, and then you move through that door that brings you to a whole nother room with doors. And so you just keep on going. And I guess that's what life is too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, so amazing. So I take it probably nature is really inspiring when you're connecting with these sounds, but are there anything else that kind of come to you, or that you feel really like you're gravitating towards, or that maybe open up another door that you're, that's maybe unexpected? Like, where do you get the inspiration for
space? Nature for sure. I think that, and also opposite, like creating natural sounding stuff synthetically is really interesting. There's one game that I played, and there was a sound designer from he's Danish, and I think his name is Martin Anderson, or Martin Stig Anderson, and he creates ambience and natural sounds out of synthetic sounds. So you think that like you think that you're hearing grass or wind, but it's actually synthesizer. And then if you do record real sounds, then you alter it, so it's the reality of it is you understand what it's implying, but it's also very, very like, it's like a painting, like an abstract painting,
Wow.
So I definitely love literally the sound of good thing about Sacramento is all the rivers, and we live right by a river, and so you can go outside and you hear the trees and the ivy on the trees, and then the river, and there's this delta breeze that comes in every evening, so you always hear the trees rustling and all that stuff, and I love that so much, and then I want to try to recreate that now from scratch, from just my memory. It's kind of fun to do that. Gosh. So I've created ambiences that are natural and of nature, but done it completely just from memory.
That's insane. I mean, you must have like a super high keen sense of sound.
Well, it doesn't. I think that there's stuff that I don't know about. So maybe it is some sort of, there is like a keen sense or an intelligence with that type of thing. But also it's a creative thing. It's like, just go for it and just try to and see what happens. And, it might work out to how you thought it was going to work out, or it might not. It might not be what you expected, but then another door opens that you go through, and you're like, oh, I was trying to make this like ambient river sound, but it ended up being like this, airplane sound.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Interesting. So it seems like you have almost like this, I don't know what you would call it. I mean, it seems like a great relationship with experimentation and maybe not being so afraid to fail. So that, I mean, did that, it seems like you're kind of.
That's the freedom of creativity and art, is putting yourself out there, right? You can't do anything without risking. But then what are you risking? Like it's all part of this progression. So even like a failure or even something that, you know, isn't what you expected, it's still all part of what the final goal is, you know?
Yeah, I love that. I just think my brain's turning because I'm like, oh my gosh, like if we approach, you know, so many things with that same sort of perspective, like how much further will we be? Or like just thinking about the experiences that we might have missed out on because, you know, the fear of failure or whatever it is that's keeping us from moving forward.
Yeah. And the same thing when you design a room or create an atmosphere around you. You're also working with what you have. You're also working with what obstacles you have. And then like when you pull the cards out, you're working with those too. Like those things inspire you or influence you, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, all of it is obviously influential and then with the cards, it's kind of like opening up a space to be like, oh yeah, that's available too. Or, oh yeah, I can tap into that and having something that you can pull from. So cool. How do you think your design with sound inspires others? Like, how does that work? What's the relationship between like what you're producing and what you've seen people get out of it?
Well, there's if I'm doing my own personal art or music or anything that, and let's say I put it on my Instagram or Bandcamp or something that I want to share,
right?
Then I can get a response from people or not. I'm mostly doing it for myself, but it always is nice to like get feedback to see what other people, because a lot of times I have no idea, and also I don't have a specific genre or style of anything, so it's very random, you know. It's still me. I've had friends that are like, oh, you know, you think that's totally different than the last thing that you did, but it sounds like you know. And so I think that's good as an artist to have your, you know, whatever it is. And it's nice to get feedback sometimes, but mostly I just do it for myself. Now for work, for the game, I'm doing this presentation next week about how I've been creating the sound with the art team here. And so I've actually been working, it's very early on in the game. The game isn't even a game yet. Right now, it's basically a concept with a lot of art that people are pumping out, and then I riff off of it. So like somebody will be drawing a city or drawing a map, and then I'll look at it and I get ideas. Oh, okay, I can hear like the wind over here, or I can hear like, you know, this monster lurking back here, like the footsteps, and then I can hear, you know, whatever. So, and then somebody will build like a character, and then I will put sounds to the character, just based on the drawing. Yeah, and so it starts there, and then we're going to build it all together. So it's nice to be with sound to like work with the artists and build it all together. And then in that sense, I definitely want feedback. Like it's really good to get criticism, and then what's a better idea for this? Does this work? You know.
Right,
so,
just bouncing it off.
I'm really open to how it affects other people, and then I take that information.
I can only imagine like being one of those artists and creating like a creature, and then having you put sound to it and just bringing it to a whole other dimension and having them like really be like.
Yeah, so it's really fun, and so that's the fun part about being the sound guy here at a place where it's all about development. And there's creativity, but it's to really make something come alive is the sound, you know?
Yeah, that's insane. So you mentioned being in the very beginning stages. Have they heard some of these collaborations with what you're doing already? Or is that something that you're presenting here shortly for them to listen for the first time?
So that's why I had to end today at 4, because I have an art review at 4:00 where I show what I was working on this week, what sounds, and so I make a little video, and then I'll play it. We have a conference call, but some people are here and some people are not here, and so I'll play a video, and then we'll talk about it and get feedback. And the same thing with them, what they've been working on artistically. So next week is they call it. I forget what it's an in-house event where everybody from the company comes here. So, and there's a lot of people who haven't heard stuff, and there's investors and stuff coming. So I'm going to do a presentation like a nice presentation
Yeah.
with all the sound. It would be really fun. It'd be exciting.
So cool. I just love it. When you talking about this, it's just reminding me of like being a kid playing all those video games, and then even my boys, them playing their video games, and just like all the little, and when you were first sharing with me, some stuff that you did, just like one of the videos, it was a video game, and I think it was the boy or somebody was by maybe a beehive or next to flies or something, and just like that sound, it's just like,
yeah.
so incredible. You just don't think about it all.
Yep. It really does bring, it really takes you, depending on what the sound is, it really takes you to where you want to go.
Mm-hmm.
That's the other thing too about game design, is that if you can give a totally different opposite sound than, for a scene that's nice and serene, you could have it be like somehow ominous or dark or intense.
Yeah.
Or if there's a scene where there's all this stuff going on, what if the sound was like ambient? Then that puts you in this like dreamlike kind of feel. So I mean,
Totally.
You can mess around with it and give a misdirect too. It doesn't have to be literal or anything.
Got it. Oh, so yeah, I mean, that you just saying that reminded me that like even in our homes, even if it's a little bit chaotic or the space is not exactly what we want at the moment, like just turning sound on or putting in an ambient of some sort can really get you mentally in a different state. That can transform our spaces, especially if you're in transition and you're trying to do design or whatever it is, knowing that you can kind of just close your eyes and put that in to transform your space.
For instance, I have to have a fan. I have to have white noise in order to fully relax and go to sleep and stuff at night. And I'm not sure why that is. Maybe it's because of tinnitus playing with bands. But anyway, that soothes me is when I have like some sort of drone going,
Okay.
And maybe that's why I like ambient music. And, I like the drone. I like it slowly developing and changing.
Yeah. And I've seen other videos that you've posted where like an artist or somebody is drawing something or creating something and there's music behind it. How does that come about? Like, what does that collaboration look like? Are they coming to you? Are you going to them? Are you guys just like hanging out?
Yeah, I think that particular collaboration is with my friend Annie Perkins, who also does a meditation video, and I've done meditation background music for her. Yeah. But her art is she'll take stuff from nature, a lot of times bones and feathers and whatever else, and she'll make collages, stop motion animation of them.
You're so rad.
And then I'll give her like 4 or 5 options of music.
Okay.
Like because it could go any way. It could be hectic music, it could be real mellow music, and everything in between. It could be organic, or it could be synthesizer music. And sometimes that juxtaposition works really well. So I'll send her options, and then she's like, "I love number 2," or sometimes she's like, "I can't decide." But
Of course.
And kind of like what I did for you too, right?
Yeah.
I sent you like a bunch of different versions. Like some music, it was played with like woodwind instruments, and other music was like synthesizers. So it just depends on what strikes you and how it strikes you, and it's okay either way.
Right. And so with that collaboration, was that something that she was creating and she invited you to create music with, or was it something that you guys just sort of...
Yeah, originally she invited me. She said she was I liked the art that she was doing, the stop motion art. She posted something, and I think I might have put some music behind it or something, just to like be like, hey, check this out. But she's like, okay, I really want to collaborate, and so I'm going to send, I'm doing another piece if you want to do music for it. And I was like, yes, so.
Yeah. And so is that just part of like her art and what she's displaying, or does that go anywhere or do anything, or is it just for fun? Or
I think that it's just for fun, but I think that she was using it. She had like a show here and there for some things, and then she also uses it for her meditation site, like a side note, her personal art. But she does guided meditation too.
Very cool.
Which is separate from that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you also have like some albums or tracks of things that you've created, right? I've been listening. I don't know which one it is. I wish I like had it up. Maybe it was a recent one. It had a lot of background. I don't know if you had one that just recently came out or that you were just promoting recently, but
I always have stuff going on. I'm always putting up, like every 4 to 6 months, I'll usually like post something on Bandcamp or Instagram. But it's basically just those are places for me to share any experiments and explorations that I'm having. And if something sticks, then I'll stick with it for longer and then try, and try to push it until I move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, I've had friends who are like, it still sounds like you. So, which is good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And I think I saw something, maybe it was on your website or on a bio or something, but you were doing stuff with Pinback. And what was that collaboration like?
That was one of the bands I played with in San Diego from 2003 or 4 until 2008.
Okay.
And then I played in offshoots with,
Got
members of those bands. But yeah, I just basically was hired just to play keyboard and bass and stuff with them. And then I had my own bands other than that as well. But that was a great job to have.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I learned a lot from playing with those guys.
Yeah, and I mean, I think even just that one album I was listening to, I could just hear like some similarities or some little, things in there that I just thought was really, really, really neat.
We're all very like-minded. All those musicians in San Diego it's a small pool of people, and a few of them. And we've all played with each other in different bands and stuff.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
San Diego is just one of those places, and same thing like with design. We all know each other, and artists, everyone knows each other, and it's like you can't go anywhere without running into somebody. Or
it's true. Even now, when there's triple the amount of people from 2001 when I first moved there, but it still has this kind of small feel town feel community when it comes to the arts and things like that. Everybody knows each other.
Yeah, which is one of the things that I just love about it, because it's like, if you go to an opening or some sort of event, you're gonna run into somebody, and everyone has like some really cool things happening. And yeah, super rad. So Definitely. You've got the video stuff going on with this company. Are you working on any other sort of fun projects that you're wanting to share or excited about?
Well, right now, since we just moved, I've only been concentrating on work, but I do have a couple friends up here that are great musicians, and it would be fun to start with them at some time, or and I have some friends in the Bay Area. But so right now I've just been concentrating on work, and then I have been recording acoustic guitar at home and working on like finger picking and stuff like that. And then, but I've also been doing synthesizer music, like synthwave stuff, to juxtapose it. So I have like a synthwave thing coming up and an acoustic thing coming up, I think, but I don't know.
Super rad. Yeah. What do you think would be like, do you have a certain job, or I don't want to say it's a job, or sort of a dream collaboration that you would like to kind of tap into? Like if you could have your way, like what do you think that would look like? Or is there something you've been wanting to do forever?
I think I'm on the path, because I think that having a collaboration that would either be a film with a director that I love, like something that I could score or do the sound for, would be a great goal. Not just be hired for things that I don't necessarily have a part in, but collaborate with something I can really put everything behind would be nice. And same thing with a game. It'd be nice to if I could, after this, move on to other games and even more experimental, or even in art, even an art installation. Just to explore my options a little bit more, and not have it just be like something a little bit more standard. It'd be nice to really get into like sound as an art or 3D environment, art installation or something like that. I have a friend who I collaborate with, who's an artist, and he does multimedia art, and he's a teacher. We've played at some art galleries and stuff, but it'd be nice we've talked about like putting something together where the visual and the audio can interact, and stuff like that. I love that.
Yeah, I mean, you even just talking about that, it made me almost feel like maybe like virtual reality, or creating something where you're like fully immersed into like the art and the sound, because you just having like that thing and navigating into that space.
Yeah, I always fantasized about, and I've created little meditational video games. So it puts you into it doesn't tell you what to do, but you can float around or move towards something, and it's ambient, and it's not. And it would be nice to have a game like that where you just you're putting the game together while you're playing it. You're making up the narrative while you're playing it, and it would be fun to have interactive music that way, and interactive. I don't know how that would work yet, but it's moving towards that for sure.
Yeah, I just feel it, and I'm just like, God, it'd be so rad to just like you're saying, like interacting with it as you're going and having influence on what's happening in the space.
Yep. Yeah. There was a game. The first time I ever felt that, had that like experience, there was this game that was on an early PlayStation, and I think it was like 2004, and it was this game that like nobody knew. I didn't know. I don't know how I found it, and all it was a feather, and you were a feather floating around in this field, and the wind, and you somehow, it was hard to control, so it took you a while to figure out how it worked, but eventually, intuitively, you started to control it, and then where do I go? I don't know. You can go anywhere, and then eventually, intuitively, you figure out, oh, you're supposed to go this way, or you're supposed to get this, or you collect this, or you try to get another feather. So it was a really cool game, and it was all like, the music was all like new age and like, but I think it was just called Feather. I think. I don't know.
My gosh, I'm gonna still look it up. That sounds so rad. Yeah. That's totally my kind of space.
I think that you can have. I want to create an experience that's not necessarily a movie, not necessarily a game, or meditation, and just kind of like add it all together and just have an experience, create an experience. Like you said, virtual reality. It could be that. It could be that, or it could be in a augmented reality or real life.
Right. I know that there's people that are, I think it's called Metaspace, or like designing houses and places like virtually that people can go in and buy like real estate in there and all of that. Have you?
Wow.
It's really crazy. I just like recently heard about it, and one of the members in our interior design community, she designs spaces in there. Is that something that you heard about, or like?
I've heard about, being in a new upstart game company. Of course, like there's talk about all of that, and talk about, they call it Web3, and they call it meta and all this space that basically it's just going to be this fully like immersive, interactive thing. But I think that the technology is getting there, and eventually it will be like full on Matrix probably. Yeah. But right now it's just it's very conceptual, and so some things take flight and other things don't. Yeah. But it'd be really interesting to see. And I think that's pretty much, and the same thing when with creating animation, there's lighting and there's camera and there's all this stuff and in real life there's these elements that you need to create something, and then also in the meta life there'll be things that you're going to need, and so the interior design I could see being very, I guess there's the line between the two isn't very different these days. I've seen this new game engine called Unreal, and the new one is called Unreal 4 or 5. Anyway, a 5, I think. And somebody created a world in it. Somebody created like a subway station. Okay. In the game, and they're walking around the subway station, and it's in Tokyo, or it looks like Tokyo. It's exactly like real life. Like I couldn't tell the difference. You can't tell anymore. They can't implement it yet because it would take so much memory. It would be like terabytes of space, But like, it's out there. You can create whole other universes, that look just like ours.
That's so incredible. And I think of that when I think of sound, because it's something you can't like touch, but you can, you're experiencing it in a different plane almost.
Yeah, that's interesting too.
You know what I mean?
And that's maybe that's why I've always been drawn to it. It's because as an art, music and sound, it's so powerful, right? But it's not a painting. It's not something that's tangible. And so why do we like it? Why do we like to hear certain things or not like to hear certain things, It's really interesting.
Yeah, I just love that aspect about it and that connection. So I'm always thinking about that with like design, and when we're using our imaginations or we're thinking of something, or even when I'm visualizing something, I can see it in my eye, but of course, the client can't like touch it or necessarily see it. So you kind of have to share the vision and obviously get some things that are a bit more tangible. But yeah, just kind of, I love that world of not being able to touch something for whatever reason. So
it's more creative because you have to fill in the spaces,
yeah.
It's not something that is definite and solid and tangible and concrete, and so you can add your creativity to it,
Absolutely. Yeah. So how can people find you? Like what, or I should say like, yeah, I want people to find you and I want them to enjoy what you're doing, but also like, who do you want to work with? Like who, or maybe you're not looking for work right now because you're so immersed in the video game thing, but like if you could pick or put out there people that you want to be attracted to in order to collaborate with, like what would that be, or what would that look like?
I kind of know when when it
When you meet
happens.
them?
I'll know
Yeah.
it when I see it. I don't really have any expectations right now, and yeah, so I'm just concentrating on work at the moment.
Okay.
But not to say that I wouldn't want to collaborate.
Yeah.
So people can always get in touch with me,
Okay.
whether it be through Instagram. My Instagram is Kenseth Composing,
Okay.
and then Bandcamp. My name is easily Googleable because
Yes.
it's there's not many Kenseths out there. So
For sure.
if you just put in Kenseth and try to start writing Thibideau, it'll probably come up.
Cool. And we'll have your links in the show notes too.
But yeah,
All right,
cool. And
sweet.
my email is easy. It's just Kenseth@gmail. So
Perfect. Yeah, you're easy to get a hold of. So yeah, we'll put
yeah.
that out there so people can find you. And then the other thing I always like to ask is, are there any practices or routines or rituals that you're doing to stay grounded or centered, or just to be able to come back?
So because I'm in a room and a computer like all the time, it's really important to take breaks. So during the day after lunch or so, I'll just go and walk around. And it's a new city. So for me, it's exciting.
Yeah.
Because I don't know anything about it. And
Yeah.
so I'll just try to walk it to another place I haven't been. Like I said, we have a river behind our house. So it's every day after work when I get home, my wife and I will take the dogs to the river. And then sometimes I'll just go by myself and fish. And even though I don't catch anything, I just like to hang out there and just do that,
Ah.
And so anyway, yeah, hiking these little trails and that go through the backyard along this river, and then hanging out in the backyard and just listening to the trees when the Delta breeze comes at night, things like that, like really kind of make it all help me reset and make all like sitting in a box like this, like okay.
Sure.
But yeah, I could definitely use more exercise. I want to start bike riding.
Oh yeah.
I need to get my bike fixed, but it's a very good city for that. There's a lot of these paths that go along the rivers and stuff. So yeah, just
very cool.
Just try to breathe and walk, and but it's also very hot here. So yeah, I do it in the evening.
Yeah, exactly.
Or early morning.
I used to go up to when I was a kid, my dad lived in Chico and Orville in that area, and yeah, the heat during the summer. I just remember being like,
it's serious.
Yeah, for sure. So, all right, Kenseth. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing a bit about you and what you do, and this magical world of sound that I think is so important when we're designing spaces. And
thank you for having me. And I think that why I'm attracted to this, to your world and realm, is because that I really love. I was meditating for a while. And I really love just stopping, closing your eyes, breathe, and listen to the sounds. And there's always a sound. Unless you're in a vacuum, there's always something that is happening. And it's interesting to see what it is, how you feel about it, how does it interact with you, and then try to change it too. Like make it if it's something, like I said, that it might be annoying, maybe you can listen to it and try to like find the rhythm in it, and then all of a sudden it'll turn into something that you enjoy. So yeah, I think it goes hand in hand with meditation and creating atmospheres.
Yeah, I love that example you just gave. And, I'll do like meditations and things during like moon circles, or we'll be somewhere and we're kind of in an urban area and you'll hear like the cars, and just recognizing like, oh my God, that's so annoying, or like, why can't it be quiet? And then all of a sudden shifting to really paying attention to it and like almost like bringing it in. And,
and realize that you can't control it. That's the other thing. So like it happened. You will never guess when the next car goes by. You can't guess it. Yeah. So like, and that's amazing too. That's life. That's time. That's everything moving. And just anyway, there's ways to tweak it so that it kind of becomes good.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a great exercise, I guess you could say, with just anything that comes into life, right? That's unexpected or just kind of puts us in a different turn and going with it and using it to our advantage. And it's also when I'm like pulling cards, like I'll pull I think it's the Five of Cups. It's always that card of like, the guy's focusing on the cups that have spilt versus the cups that are still standing and that are filled. And whenever I pull that card with somebody, they're always like, I know exactly what you're talking about, because they're so focused on that one thing, that's not quite right. But it's like, oh my God, but look at all this behind you. That's amazing. It's
all perspective too.
Yeah. And I love that you get to do that with sound. So cool.
Yeah, it's great to figure out like what is happening that I can't control, but also I can control certain things.
Yeah.
And then what happens when I change something? How does that affect me? How does it affect something else? So it is playing around with perspective.
Yeah. So
I never really thought of it, but I've always liked how when you watch a movie, how music will affect a scene so much. And that was always really inspiring to me.
Yeah. I mean, you can even see it just like if you, on Instagram, I know it's like not the best, but when you're like on the reels or whatever, and there's no music and you watch the videos and it's like, so like, oh, this is like not interesting, or it's boring, or like, what am I watching? And then you listen to it with the music, and then all of a sudden it transforms into something else. It's like,
yeah, no, I've noticed that too. I'm like, a lot of things I'll put on mute because I like it better without the sound. The sound is like so jarring or something. But yeah,
you're like, what is happening here? No, I totally feel you. All right. Well, I know you have an important meeting.
Yeah,
with
we got a meeting coming up. But
so I will let you go. And like I said, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you're busy and you've got lots of things going on, and you've got a new city that you're exploring. So I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Holistic Interior Design Business Podcast. If it's one that you have been enjoying, please share with anyone else that you think can benefit from this knowledge, and leave us a 5-star review. That helps us get seen and found by other new and aspiring interior designers. And if you're looking for mentorship, I invite you to join our club here at the Design Coven. It's a bridge between school and real life interior design. We get in much deeper there. We have virtual and in-person events, so everyone is welcome. You don't need to have a design degree to be part of it, just an interest in holistic interior design. I also want to thank our editor, Marcy Ferry, and lastly, Kenseth Thibideau, who is our music composer. Until next time, be well, and we will see each other soon.